Portals. This is a Fireside Chat with founder Adam of Dinodawg Kingdom, which is the exhibit that we have on display right now, along with other developments in his work over the years, which I'm sure we'll hear a bit about. But this is definitely a unique gathering and event this time. This is the first time that we are featuring 3D assets in the gallery like this. So the gold statue that we're all kind of congregating around is a new thing to have on display in terms of part of the gallery, as well as what's up on the wall in the kind of main centerpiece in the back wall. So this is cool to see this, in action for the first time here. Also, obviously, those of you who are in new avatars are getting to explore the use of alternate avatars other than the kind of classic blocky Portals avatar and the Ready Player Me one, which is what we've had for a bit. So this is super cool just to see the commingling of everybody. So yeah, so I guess we shall kind of kick it over to you, Adam. Thank you so much for being here. We'd love to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the project. Sorry, my kid just broke.
Don't worry, mine are in the other room. I had to close the door. Don't worry. Thank you very much. I think before we even kick off, I want to say a big thank you to the whole Portals team for letting us use the avatar, because I know this is strictly work in progress, and letting us, test drive these for, while the gallery's open is absolutely amazing. And I think everyone who is rocking one and enjoying it is really appreciative of it, and I know the community is going to love it. So, big thank you from all of us at Dinodawgs for letting us do that. And yeah, great to see the 3D assets in here too. We've only got two. I mean, I could have pushed ahead and given you guys a few more, but we thought we'd just test run it. And I know we've got Bus in here from the Builders DAO. So maybe as we go through the AMA, we'll talk a little bit about those 3D assets, because there's a nice little connection to the Builders DAO, which is why we made them, and they were sort of Portals friendly assets, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this chat. Where do you want to start?
Well, I guess we can kick it off by hearing maybe a bit about your background. You can kind of introduce yourself and what you do and how your career has kind of led you here. It's hard to cram as much as you've accomplished already into that span, but I think most people who are in here are curious to hear about that. And then many are already sort of involved in your newer projects, so it makes sense to get us there. Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll touch base on the sort of Web3. So we're all here for Dinodawgs, obviously, and it is 1 week shy of a full year for the Dinodawgs community, which is amazing. And what we have done in a year is pretty much blowing my mind a little bit. But we started last January with a 2D collection, which you can see on the upper levels of the gallery, and that 2D collection was something that was created by me and my brother, who's the other founder, who is known as Duke Fluffysaurus, or James, as I call him. And basically, James had been in the sort of Web3 crypto space for about a year before me, and had been pestering me for many months. I kick myself now that I didn't get into it like the March of the year we launched, rather than waiting all the way to sort of October. But we sent ideas back and forth. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to do something cheeky, something that was very familiar of sort of 90s era Nickelodeon or 90s era Cartoon Network. And so if you look at the 2D style on the upper levels there, that's what we were going for, that kind of Nickelodeon-esque look, and Dinodawgs were born of that. And we very quickly wrote a whole lore and ethos around it, and it was a smash hit. So we sold that in about 4 minutes for the first collection, which is still on Magic Eden. And we've had a pretty good year. We started them at 1 sol. I think they're now selling about 4.5, 5 sol. So we've kept the price through the bear market, which I'm really pleased about. Obviously, the price of sol's gone down, so they're actually quite cheap right now. But still, to maintain the price, I'm quite pleased with that. And then my background has always been a 3D artist. The 2D drawing is very much like a passion thing. So we were getting a lot of calls from the community to do 3D. We always wanted to take it into 3D. And so there is 2 3D characters. One's golden, ironically, in the first set as one of ones. And then we basically took that and developed a full avatar. And around that time, we also partnered up with Network, who I suppose would be one of your rivals in a way, but they're not exclusive. They're not soul based for a start, but they're another metaverse, and that pushed us to very much start developing the full body, working with skeletons, working with Unreal, and that again helped us push into Unity as well. And so those conversations sort of opened the doors for guys like you. We're also working with Yaku, another metaverse project. And we quickly realized that we had a lot of, with my background in 3D, we had a lot of skills that some other projects were missing in terms of like prepping 3D assets. So we're now in the process of just converting our renders into our rendered assets into game-ready assets. So things like the skins and the collars. This is fantastic to see because now we can see like a fantastic demo of how those are rendering in a real-time environment, and I think they're holding up really well. So we've just been building non-stop for the whole year, and here we are now, just less than a year, and now we're seeing a selection of full avatars in a metaverse, which I gotta be honest, I'm absolutely chuffed by. That's a quick one down to the last year, I guess. Do you want to touch on some of the VFX stuff?
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Sorry, I tend to waffle on, so feel free to just jump in and say anything at any time if you want.
Sure, we'll wrangle you in the direction, but yeah, we'd love to hear.
So I've been working in visual effects for almost 20 years, all in London, and I've been working on Marvel films, sci-fi films, fantasy films, whole load of things. I'm a 3D modeler by trade, and I've worked at mostly in London. I've worked in New York for a couple of years, but companies like Frame Store, the moving picture company, Cinesight, all that kind of stuff. I currently work for Industrial Light and Magic, which for me is a bit of a goal reached kind of stage. So I'm there at the moment working on a Marvel film that comes out next month actually. So we'll probably be promoting that in our server for a bit. But yeah, I started working in like kids TV shows and doing a little bit of games outsourcing, and then got a break on the first Dolphin Compass film, building the armor for the polar bears, and that's I did well there, and it's a lot of word of mouth. Moved around, made a lot of friends in London, and London's a great hub for VFX. So I think I'm coming up to 20 years. But I've created modeling departments, and you can see some of the highlights on the wall. We've got Rocket Raccoon, which I was the lead modeler for Guardians of the Galaxy. You've got Skyrim Claws for PlayStation, where I modeled that dragon. You've got what else? You've got Harvey Two-Face. So I got to work on the Dark Knight, and there's loads of stories connected to this. That final model of Two-Face, I'm going to run over to it. I'm dragging people over. We actually did 3 different heads for Two-Face. Ironically, some of this got leaked, but everyone thought it was too realistic, so it was dismissed, which is quite good. Although I swear someone got fired for leaking it. But we did 3 different heads for Ant-Man. One had a lot more like of the skeleton reveals, and then one had less of the skeleton reveals, so more flesh. But the one with you'd think having more of the bones would be scarier, but actually the one with more flesh was horrific because it was scar tissue basically, and it was really scary. So although it's, what is it, 12 or 15, something like that, they didn't want to completely alienate audiences, so they went the middle road and did the sort of little bit of bone visible and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because we did 3 full finished models, so only 1/3 of our work actually made it into the film, which is hilarious. But yeah, been working on film for some time now. Did a little bit of commercials, a little bit of games, and there's some commercial work here. That panther right at the end. Oh look, Testery is hiding in the corner. This panther right at the end was an awesome job. That was a photorealistic panther to make for Cartier, who have a panther diamond. Is it panther? Yeah, it is panther. And we had to make a photoreal panther for their commercials, which they used, in several spots in the end. It's funny because that was an over $1 million commercial, which is a lot of money, and we had something like 6 or 8 weeks to make it. So it's similar money to VFX, but you have a much shorter time frame. Films you'll be doing for 2 years. There we go.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Christopher Nolan Batmans, and yeah, I still remember seeing this kind of version of Two-Face for the first time. Like I've grown up in the 90s where we have like the which one is it? Batman and Robin.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, like the sort of comedic one, like the old school one, and so like seeing this with like the gruesome detail is just like, it was awesome. So it was so cool to like see the assets coming in here and being like, oh man, this is just so cool.
I actually have that model. I could be converting that to a GLB file and putting the model in the gallery. It's amazing. I'm pretty sure. I don't think anyone here is working for Warner Brothers who own Batman. I'm pretty sure if I started putting that model online, people I'd get sued. So. Oh
yeah. No, the IP of everything. No, it's understandable. It's just incredible, and it's fun how the intersection of these spaces work. Like being in this kind of Web3 world for so long now, and then just having these moments to intersect with people who have done work in the quote unquote real world or whatever. Like it's surreal and super cool. So I guess maybe I'll throw a question in your direction related to this. There aren't a lot of projects that have artists with the background like yours. A lot of people either are fresh starting out. I mean, that's one of the incredible things about crypto and Web3 is like really anybody can do anything. It's very empowering. Sure. I'm wondering what your perspective has been, kind of seeing that from your lens, coming from a background in more of this traditional realm, and how there's maybe good or bad, or I don't know if you have comments about that.
I definitely have some thoughts on that for sure. I mean, so we have connected to, one of the great things about Web3 is how much everyone wants to help each other out, share information. It's bizarre. And so, once we start up a dialogue with another project, assuming they're legit and not ragging people, it's very interesting to get a little behind the scenes. And a lot of them are, as you say, totally new to this space, but new to the whole concept of, if they're doing 3D, new to 3D. And they may have hired artists in as a freelancer, and we found a lot of those projects where they've hired in people and they've done the job and then they've left the project. But then there's this demand of, you've done the renders for the profile picture, but actually we want an avatar for a metaverse, or we want to change it up a little bit or evolve it, or we actually want to do a new range, all this stuff, and they're missing their 3D artist. And or they work with a project that uses Unity or one that uses Unreal. Now, the key benefit for us is, because of my backgrounds and because of my experience, I'm able to knock that stuff out, really quickly, but also it's very rare that we get stumped by a request. And so even for this, right, we were having some problems getting the textures applied for GLB files to make the avatars here. Now, I don't normally work with that format, and so I've opened up Blender, and I've learned what I needed to in Blender in about a week. And so we have that flexibility, which has been great. And I find a lot of these projects, they have, to be blunt, they have all the right intentions, and they may have some killer artwork, but they don't necessarily have the capacity to follow through to a finished product. And this is interesting for you guys too. So I'm going to slightly throw this back at you, because we see a lot of projects that do metaverses, or they sell land, for example, and then they just can't follow through. Now with you guys, we're living it now. It's amazing. And for me, this is it's sort of unreal that, you know, for us a year ago, I don't know exactly when you guys launched, but for us a year ago, we proposed this, and now here we are experiencing it in its sort of first iteration. Let me throw it back. How has it been for you guys on a similar level, where, you know, you propose something and then you're experiencing it now?
Yeah. So I guess what we can share about our experience, because we were actually holders that kind of stepped into community roles, as opposed to kind of the traditional development route. I know that Adam was here, or Gomez was here a moment ago to comment, but I'll share what, you know, our experience, or my experience kind of related to this. Portals, for me as like a NFT investor, was like one of the few projects out there that had a working demo before, like pre-mint. You know, everything kind of up to that was a promise, and that was kind of the norm. It's like, hey, we're gonna do this. So for me, it was super refreshing seeing something where it's like, okay, there's a working product. You know, they just did super well at the Hacker House like the month prior, and they'd been working on stuff, I think, the year or so leading up to that. So it wasn't like a brand new team trying to essentially money grab. Not that that's what every project is, but, you know, there's the danger of that. So knowing that there was already kind of proof of concept and things working, and then just the team constantly working all the time, always developing stuff and pushing things and trying to make adjustments. It's just super cool to see. And, you know, your comment about, you know, your experience kind of informing how you approach a problem is different than maybe a newer developer or a newer project. And I see that with this team as well, where you can make suggestions and they either have an answer or have an idea about the reality of it. So it's not like, you know, it's not like, oh yeah, we could definitely do that, when in reality perhaps it's not, you know.
One of our credences in Dinodawgs, between me and James, the founder, is to be like under promise, over deliver. Like we had a lot of requests to do what's it called, breeding and stuff, and we talked about, well, rather than doing a female Dinodawg, we'd much rather do like a Triceratops or a Stegosaurus. But we're not even going to entertain that until we know we've got this avatar nailed in all its capacity completely. And again, I'm not going to push down other projects, but there's other projects that, in their naivety, went down a route where they're adding like fully rendered hair. And we were very conscious of our decision to do dinosaurs, because they don't have cloth, they don't have hair, and both those things are very tricky in 3D. And we knew we'd be able to realize this with much greater ease. That's not to say we wouldn't try that stuff, but I'd never want to be like, oh, I'm going to do a fully functioning avatar for all these different platforms, when I know that would be a stumbling block.
Yeah, so, that's a good observation and good point to make. And I think, you know, I would agree as far as, again, my perspective, seeing the team of this sort of under promise, over deliver kind of mentality. That's what we saw, you know, very early on as holder investors, and that's why like nobody really knew of, you know, certain things that come out, because it's like they don't want to just give it away and then people asking when, you know, because that's, things move so fast, right?
You say that now, and I say that being here in this place less than a year after we launched, for me, is crazy fast, right? But I think that whole when mentality is, you know, we had this the week after we launched the 2D art, and people were like, when the 3D is going to be here? And I was like, come on, guys, we've just like doing a launch is so much work, and I was like blown away with the sudden demand for it. I mean, it's great in one sense, but the other side, you're like, come on, people, let's be realistic here.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. You get this instant access to community right after launch.
Well, our community's evolved over the year, and we're now in a real sweet spot where we have very loyal followers, and those followers, they welcome new people into the community. It's a very nice space, and people will come in and do those same sort of early questions of like, when's this? What can I do with that? And the community will answer it. I come in and I basically come in and just sort of flash in the pan in there, drop a little bit of alpha or news in it, and then I piss off. And we've settled into a really nice groove now where we're allowed to be builders, and we don't need to constantly do these little mini rewards, like just to keep happy. We can go off and actually work on these avatars, and realize this particular reward and this utility, which is a much better dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. The way. Did you have any follow-up questions or comments?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about sort of in the same vein of, you asked the question about kind of Web3 and that, and it's so Web3. This space is so crazy. I'm sitting here in this room, chatting with you, listening to you. Never in real life would I be in a room with a visual, VFX person that works at a studio that has worked on these iconic films. I mean, these are some of the most iconic films of like my time. And we're just here sitting here having a chat. We've had these kind of DMs going with the group and stuff, and it's just so crazy. It's surreal to me. It's amazing. I think that's what I really like about Web3. And then sort of piggybacking on what you just kind of said right now about like when 3D, I think that's also that's the blessing and curse of, Web3 is this whole building in public, right? It's something that really doesn't exist in Web 2. You don't go to Apple and say when iPhone 15, right? They just, there's not somebody in the Apple Discord, harassing the founder, every day. So it's a very weird, it's a bizarre, kind of space, but it is very welcoming. I think Solana, the ecosystem is very welcoming. So my question, I guess, to you kind of in that vein is, what led you to, build on Solana and this ecosystem, and what was kind of your foray into Web3 in general?
So I talked a little bit about how my brother was already into it, and for years I was like, no, it sounds ropey, and I didn't want to do it. And then he sort of he I don't want to say to wore me down, but he sort of convinced me to come into it. We had a whole discussion around ETH versus Sol, and I still very much believe in Sol. The whole market's down. It's not unique to Solana, and we just decided it was. This is the same answer going to get for everyone. More ethical, it's better. Generally, we felt it was a more up and coming platform. We just felt there was more opportunity for exposure there to really make a name for ourselves. We Magic Eden as a primary marketplace we thought was also a lot better than some of the other marketplaces we were looking at on ETH. And then just generally, affordability, I think, for everyone. And it was just a bunch of reasons. We thought Sol was the better way to go. It attracted us more. It felt like a new and more upcoming, the marketplace was certainly. Where we're at now is interesting because as well as being, an owner of a project and a builder, I'm also a buyer of other projects, so we have land in Portals. Hopefully we're going to be building our district soon. But it's interesting with them. I'm constantly like Two-Face. I'm a foot in each camp, because when the price of Sol goes down as a buyer, I'm like, absolutely brilliant. I'm now going to go fill my boots. I'm going to go buy all this stuff. And then on the other side, I'm like, well, I'm not going to make much money from the sales of Dinodawgs. But equally, I'm super happy that other people can enter into the project at a really affordable level. So there's always two sides to everything, and I think it's generally a very interesting time to sort of be in this market and see what's happening. That makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. No. I love it. Yeah. In regards to the artwork, so I know you said the top floor is the 2D. I mean, you kind of hinted towards the dinos. What was kind of the inspiration besides no intricate details with hair and stuff, but what was kind of the
look, everyone loves a
inspiration?
dinosaur. Everyone loves a dinosaur. It's simple.
Yeah.
The thing is, we wanted characters. So James and I we've always developed little stories together. He has a whole series of these goblin things. I'll be honest with you, sitting in my hard drive, I probably have about 15 ready to go NFT projects that we have not launched, or we just sort of developed, this year. These are since Dinodawgs. We've also got, we've got, for example, the factions release, which you can see on the back wall by the frog shooter, and that's an additional development of the original 2D. Because the truth is that all the new projects I've done are sort of an exercise in seeing where the market's at, what's selling. We've developed a wonderful project that I'm only going to hint at. I'm not really going to talk through, but it's sort of similar to Goblin Town, and we have that on the back burner. It's just sitting there doing absolutely nothing until we feel the time's right. But the truth is that we always come back to Dinodawgs, because Dinodawgs is the only one we've crafted this full lore and story behind, and we're just looking at more and more ways to tell it. And the thing is, it's very much a visual storytelling. So because we have these creatures that have such character in just a flat 2D profile picture pose, people start to embody their own stories and characters behind them. Now we've got a Mongface behind us. He's our community manager. But Mon came to light because very early on in our community, we ran a sort of write your own backstory competition, and he wrote this amazing backstory about his one of his 2D avatars called General Grievous, and he was a loyal supporter of one particular camp of Dinodawgs, and then turned tail and sort of reported back to the other team, and it was fascinating. But he wasn't the only one. A lot of people started doing this, and so it's we're constantly looking at ways to tell that story, and whether that's a 2D animated short, whether it's metaverse, whether it's games, it might even be a physical comic, or it could be anything. But for us, we felt like we struck gold the first time around, in terms of creating a brand that was fun to work on, and constantly evolving. And actually, on the top level, can I go up there? Are we still going to hear me if I walk up there?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we have it on global, so you can be anywhere.
Going up, I'm going 3D. Why not go 3D when you're in this space? So on the top level here, now these are some of our limited edition characters. So these will be much more distinct than any of the other 2Ds. But these are all characters that have a published story. So there's 10 of these out at the moment. We've written 30. So I'm standing in front of, the first one here will be the Baron. And the Baron is our antagonist. And you can tell just by looking at the picture, he's super evil with the moonlight and the blood fangs and everything. And we go on to some of the sillier characters like Pop Pop, who is the sort of the prince of the popsicles and roams the land looking for the finest flavors. And then you'll have noticed our 3D avatars that have a poison frog skin. Next one along, we've got Gweldor, who is Prince of the Rainforest, and his tribe evolved by licking the backs of frogs and developed an immunity for the poison skin of frogs, and they started developing those patterns. So, visually, they almost write themselves, and that's what's great about the project.
I love that. I think that's the lore building, and that stuff's kind of how you kind of keep everybody excited, and kind of the story. It's sort of kind of leapfrogging off of that, without spoiling too much of the world you're building inside Portals. Is there going to be some sort of kind of storyline correlation / gameplay-ish?
100%. So with our district, it's sort of in a concepty phase right now. We put a couple of screenshots out. I think they were in one of your competitions, with a notion of what Dogtown, which is the center of the Dinodawg Kingdom, would look like. And that's what our Portals district will be. It'll be a section of Dogtown, and you'll be able to sort of go around and because we have the 3D modeling experience, we're going to have stuff that you won't find in anywhere else in Portals. It will be unique to our district. And so that stuff will be, you'll have to come to the district and experience what, a little portion of Dogtown would look like. And that's, for us, that's what appealed to us about what Portals is doing with districts. It's perfect for us. You're going to get a little taster of the whole culture and community and the history and the lore just by coming for a visit. And then on top of that, where's Bus? Is Bus around here? Somewhere here. I'm sure he is. So the frog launch you see on that real wall, which is a beautiful bit of decoration, and that actually, oh god, it's stuck. Right. That is a game-ready gun that is actually part of a game we're developing with Network that will be released sometime next year. But you can start decorating your walls in Portals with these items, and they're going to be available in the Builder's Dow store, and we've got a special little Dinodawg store that's going to be available in there. So I'm sure Bus will be, yes, Bus points out, for Bone, which is our native token. So if you're a Dinodawg and you're staking your Dinodawg, you can earn Bone, and then you'll be able to exchange that Bone for Portals-ready Dinodawg-specific assets, which is very exciting.
We're getting the alpha here, live and direct.
Well, again,
hit your bone.
I've got to credit you guys. You've got a great community, and with the Builders Down in particular, they've been so. I mean, Bus has been heavily involved in this, but with they've been so heavily keen on supporting our projects, and we're very keen to give back. And as I said earlier, we have the experience, so we can make Portals friendly 3D assets. And we're sort of committing with the Builders DAO to make one a week. So every week there'll be a brand new Dinodawg item available in the shop. And yes, as Bus points out, the Golden Rover statue, which I'm going to run over to now, at the front of the gallery, is also going to be available for Dinodawg holders. And I'm going to do a little plug because this is the perfect opportunity. Should you wish to pick up a Dinodawg, you can go to Magic Eden, and I think you can get one right now for 0.7 Sol, which is bargains at the current rates. So you can pick up a Dinodawg, earn Bone, and get custom Dinodawg assets. And they're usable. You'll be able to use them even if you're not a massive Dinodawg fan. You might as well pick one up and start playing with them.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely plug what you need to plug, because that's part of the plan here.
Plugging both of us. So.
Yep.
Bus is telling me he has 30 3Ds, so he's going to have a lot of Bone to spend.
Oh man, yeah. That's awesome.
50. He has 50. 50.
Yeah. Hopefully, as we keep working with you, look, we've got 5 avatars. Not the gold one. That's just for me. But we've got 5 avatars here today. But the goal will be, as we keep working with the Portals team, to provide as many as we can, all of them ideally. So,
awesome.
But it's great to see this here today because it's like a lovely little test run. So we've already. So some of you might be spotting invisible avatars, and we've already been talking to the team about that, and they've already come up with some solutions and stuff. And as I said, the Dinodogs stand in this kind of slightly Zen way with their hands outstretched, which I think is something I can fix in the rig. So it's very good to see this as a sort of test drive. But yeah, there you go.
That's fun.
Oh, Bus has put a comment out about you should talk about the 3D Mint because this is how I got most of mine with the bonus rewards. I'll mention that. We're a very community reward-driven project. So for people who owned the 2Ds, the original ones, the OG collection, we had staking up within the first few months, and they were able with their tokens, with their bone tokens, to exchange those for 3D Dinodawgs. And I think the rough ratio was if you've been staking from the absolute beginning, you would have managed to get two 3Ds for free right off the bat.
Nice.
And so all of our OG holders have been heavily rewarded with 3Ds, which is why Bus has so many.
Yeah, and we know Bus very well. So when he goes big into something, he gets a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. And it's great to see the community support here too. Obviously, you've mentioned Bus just now. He's one of the community members that we see a lot, as well as Among Face too. He's another of our, or he or she, not sure, among. In terms of another Portals community member that kind of is that bridge between things. So it's so cool to see that. That connection between communities. I guess I'll turn that into another question for you before maybe we see if the room has some questions. But what kinds of, maybe you've hinted at a little bit of this, but the way that a lot of projects intersect and communities intersect out here in this kind of Web3 space, what are the differences you've seen in terms of meeting or having the ability to collaborate in this way? Because obviously in your traditional side of things, you have to do collaborations or you have to work with others for things. And I'm wondering what maybe some of the differences are.
Between what, the real world collaborations and the Web3 collaborations? Yeah.
I mean, you've already kind of touched upon how some of these cross-pollinating things are happening in Web3.
Well, I think that the people that really know, firstly, I think it's very genuine when people want to help you if they have the time. And some of the people have given us so much in terms of advice and guidance for nothing, just because they want us to succeed. It's amazing, and that's a huge difference because I just find in real life you wouldn't be so giving with your time or, your, I don't know, I find people, I don't know what it is about Web3, but, I think there's a commonality when people, especially between creators, when they've made a project to be like, oh, you're going through this too. And so here's our advice. So that's one thing. And that we find is almost universal. Every now and then you'll find another project that is very, very guarded. Yeah, Mr. Miyagi says, I think it's passion. I think he's right. And every now and then you'll find another project very guarded. And sometimes they might be great people, but that's the counter side is that sometimes we've been screwed over by a couple of people, thankfully only very minor, but we've equally known many projects that have been almost had the project completely sabotaged by, people wanting to manipulate it or hack it or do something with it. And so, sometimes you find these projects that are very guarded, and that's a little bit harder. It might be nice people, but you can't always work out if they're genuine or they can't work out if you're genuine, and that's a shame. But the other big thing that's come through is that when you do meet those projects that have the passion but also really know what they're talking about, we regularly, almost daily communicate with, I don't know, 2 or 3 other projects that are just, I speak to these people more than I speak to my best friends because they're so helpful, but we do the same for them. It's very much tit for tat, and we have them in some of our, when we're looking for investors, they're on our advisors guide, and I'm not going to name who they are, but our community will know because they're projects that we feature quite a lot when we do promotions or, when we do AMAs and stuff. So some of our closer friends and some of our partners are genuine, real life friends, but genuinely essential to the success of the project. Yes, Bust has guessed one of them correctly.
Yeah, Bust is a good investigator, as I'm sure you know. Those are all good comments and good points. And that's one of the other neat things I've noticed is just the barriers and the access to people at different levels is like they're almost non-existent, or the barriers are non-existent in this Web3 space. Like you can, within moments be talking to a founder, be talking to a developer, talking to an artist. Whereas, maybe in the more traditional world, you maybe have to know somebody, or you kind of have to have an in.
Not every project does that. Some of the projects with major hype, we've been in their Discords and like they just do announcements maybe once a month.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
And they're not in there. I mean, we try to be in there. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. And I'll go through phases where the realities of my real life commitments means that I can't be on Discord all the time.
Sure.
But I do try to pop in and say hello, even if it's just like 5-10 minutes. And again, you're right. That's an amazing capacity, or amazing opportunity for people as holders of your project to be like, oh, great, I can actually have a one-on-one with the founder and ask some questions I've been yearning to ask. I mean, you don't get that opportunity in real life. You don't, as a shareholder, you don't sit down with the CEO. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm sure it goes both ways. I've heard from one of my colleagues who's a founder of another project where he's made comments where it's like, it's amazing to have the access to directly to the holders and investors to be able to get feedback in a completely different way that's honest, that you don't get in other ways. And it can be really beneficial if you're the type that can receive constructive feedback or wants to improve things and listen to holders. So it's just a really interesting dynamic. And
it's true. We try to take it as constructive feedback. Occasionally you get people, because you're getting it as written text. Occasionally you get people and it comes across as like really dickish comments.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, some people are, I mean, I would say maybe a majority of people are, motivated potentially by the amount of money or investment that they've made. And, it's, of course, you're protecting your investment. And at the same time, because there's no borders with these things, people maybe don't have the same communication skills or professionalism that others are used to in different environments. So it's fascinating.
This is what I would say, and I think this is true for Portals as it is for us, is that you look at our original project, we minted at 1 sol. Now, the bear market's happened, and we can't do anything about the bear market, but our price it's consistently gone up. We're now trading around 5 sol, and so had it not, my personal feeling is that we've just kept building. The bear market hasn't affected us in terms of our end goal. We've just kept doing it. So I sort of feel like had the bear market not hit, we'd still be a great investment. And I think we are a great investment because we're just basically going to keep doing what we're doing until, not until, but the market's going to recover whilst we're doing that. It's really not going to change anything. So, in terms of protecting investment, the people that are our loyalist sort of community members, they know, they can see the results of what we've been building. And, it's an investment that I think will pay off.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's a good maybe end point to transition to see if anyone has some thoughts. If anybody has some questions, comments, I know we've been getting them peppered in here and there, but feel free to share. Okay. Yes. Bus, can you ask a one question? Can't stop you, right? Well, I guess I could kick you, but I'm not gonna do that. So when do you think we're reaching Big Bill?
Okay, so Big Bill was the 11th limited edition. And we had 30 of them. When we advertised, we had 30, which I'm now slightly regretting. But we had to pause because we were having a lot of issues with Magic Eden. They weren't, the metadata wasn't correct for any of the limited editions that existed. B, they are now having problems validating them. They're still having problems with it. And so we're in a little bit of a loggerhead, slight argument with Magic Eden, if I'm honest. So We've paused on the next 20 on the limited editions. Big Bill, who we let the community pick their favorite traits and form sort of gangs or tribes, and we call them squads. And so what Butts is referring to, and he's particularly fond of it because he obviously is running the Builders DAO, and Big Bill is the head of the construction crew, who also have construction hats, so there's a parallel there. And yes, he was due to be the next one on the block. What we're going to do is we're probably going to just build our own auction platform on the Dinodawg website, and we'll just do it directly ourselves. But we need to clean up what's happened with Magic Eden at the moment. So it's not technically part of our roadmap, the limited editions. We have started them, and we want to clean house a little bit. So we will continue. But I think getting the 3D avatars working here in Portals Network is supposed to be coming next week. That's our priority, certainly Q1 of January. But thus fear not, Big Bill will turn up at some point, I promise.
I know, I'm sure Bus wants that one, knowing the connections there. But let's see, we've got a question to request a photo op. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's all.
How I'm going to get on this bench? I can't. Oh, there we go. I've done it.
Yeah, one of the things, if you're in kind of that run mode, if you hold shift, it shifts you to walking, so you have a little bit better control and less drag or inertia, whatever it is, when you're kind of landing. But yeah, everybody who's in here, if you wouldn't mind, we're on
the lighting on the golden avatar over this corner looks amazing.
Yeah, it's glistening pretty awesome. Yeah.
You know why he's doing this though? So we put out a competition. We're going to give away. So there's a poison skin in the background. We're going to give away a 3D avatar to the best screenshot in the gallery. So that's why Mon's doing it.
That's good. Smart. Resourceful. Makes perfect sense.
Mr. Miyagi, you're in there. He's asked a question. I can answer that question while we're.
Yeah, good idea. Let's get Beaver up in here and test 3. Might as well. Oh, and who else? Miller.
Miller's coming over. Crypto Dog.
Oh, test 3 is
Deviant is sitting on the rover statue. So the question from Mr. Miyagi, being that we just wrapped up 2022, what were some of your favorite highs and lows throughout the year? Oh, hello.
Sorry about that.
There's been a couple. I mean, there was a point where we released footage of the game that uses the fog launcher with Network. That was awesome. People really responded to that. It was that was cool. I don't know, getting the full fruition of the 3D. Every time I've seen a fully, I think getting from 2D profile picture, even though it's a 3D one, like the 3Ds we launched in June, the point at which we managed to create the full dinosaur, this is all behind the scenes. So when we finished the dinosaur body for me and having that fully made and getting it working with mocap was like a huge high for me, because I was like, wow, this point, and it was sometime probably around July, August. And it's hilarious because no one's seen this, but our original Dinodawg body was about as big as your Portals blocky man. Like, he had a tiny little body. It was a bit more like a Mario character. And we sort of, again, and I talk about the experience that our team has, and we went with a much more humanoid proportioned body because we knew we were going to be taking it into games. But the first one was a lot more cute and sort of chibi-esque, you know. So that was a big thrill getting that done. I mean, generally, every time we release alpha and footage, the community's reaction for me is just like amazing. You know, people are just so stoked to see it. You know, this week alone, like leaking a little bit of the Portals avatars has been like absolutely awesome. So those are my highlights. I mean, there's been a lot of lows as well. You know, let's talk about some of the lows as well. Like, he's put favorite highs and lows. That's good. You know, there was when we did the 3D collection. The week before, Magic Eden decided to allow listing at the exact same time as the launch was happening. And we were like, this is a disaster. And so we were the first. We had to say to them, we're not doing that. So we convinced them to do the claim page, which, and on paper that sounded like a great idea, but again, there were tons of technical problems with claiming your Dinodawg later, because everyone got a sort of 3D egg. And that was a nightmare, because our whole dev team was just constantly putting out fires in the community saying, this is how you claim, sorry, yours isn't working, you've got to go through these steps, you know. So generally the lows have been sort of technical issues. Yeah, the highs is very much the sort of community reactions.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. Okay, we're all sitting on this bench. I hope everyone's got enough photos.
Yeah, I've took a couple.
Okay, amazing.
Sharing, so.
You can enter our competition. You know, I should just give your team all 3D avatars, all 3D Dinodawgs anyway. I can't remember if I offered that or not. I've just offered it to another team. I should offer it to you guys also. So yeah, there we go.
Awesome. Right. Well, I think that brings us to like perfectly the top of the hour, and I think
amazing.
We got to where we needed to. So thanks again so much for taking the time to speak about your background, speak about your work here, and letting us know more about what's going on. And it's also just exciting to see the avatars in action. So this is just a fun way to get that going. So thank you so much.
Iteration 1. I mean, I'm looking here and thinking of all the ways we can improve it. So I'm hoping this is just the beginning of some really cool avatars that people are going to want to drive around the Portals world. And I know that all these other communities, DeGods and builders now and stuff, they all have their own districts. And for me, it's an amazing opportunity to start visiting other communities and their district, and with your avatar, and that will change it for whatever avatar you want at the time. I think that's going to be just an amazing future for you guys, but I'm glad we're a part of it. It's going to be awesome.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Cool. And I think Mong has recorded this, so hopefully we'll put this out as a little video somewhere. It'll be fun for people to see.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and Among Faces also suggesting for those who want to stick around as we wrap to head to the arcade. Those of you who are not sure where it is, when you leave these doors here, it's basically just straight across. There's the Portals arcade where you can actually play some games. So it'd be kind of funny to see some Dinodawgs playing games. So thanks again, and thanks to everybody for being here. We appreciate Vampire Survivor. That's the game. That's the one. Yeah, thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, awesome.